Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this video is all about that we go into the depth about AI Fabric, the machine learning platform that has been developed by UiPath. And we'll talk about in the entire video that how we can leverage this tool, this AI Fabric component of AI Path, and make use of the machine learning power to deliver intelligent automation. That's where this term has been coined, named hyper automation, which is basically RPA plus AI, bringing in out of the box ideas and solving a lot many complex use cases, business use cases that we face in our daily life. So let's get started. So what is artificial intelligence, first of all? So there is this machine learning thing, which is a collection of techniques that allow system to learn from data. So till now, when we were just talking about RPA, so it's that there are rule-driven tasks, rule-based tasks. So which is like, if this particular thing is true, we're gonna perform a certain set of actions. If it is false, then we're gonna perform a certain set of actions, and like that. Not just based on true and false, but those are the rule-based criteria. So based on certain logic, we decide on what to do further. But if the intelligence is involved in this, so that they can mimic human intelligence, that what if we see a particular thing, or what if we see a particular logic or a particular scenario, and how would we react to that particular scenario to process further? So that's what the artificial intelligence is. It's an artificial intelligence, which means it is mimicking the human intelligence. So in that thing, we have this deep learning thing and natural language processing also. So deep learning is nothing but a subset of machine learning being the superset. So if I just first talk about artificial intelligence, so the theory and development of computer system to be able to perform tasks that normally require human intervention. So that's what the artificial intelligence is. And if we talk about machine learning, so it's a subfield of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence being the, if I talk about in the set words of set theory, so that being the universal set under which all these things, machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, actually lies. So machine learning, it's a subfield, so which enables system to learn from the data. That's where we talk about training and testing, that we train the data, like we train a child to walk or to speak or to learn the alphabets. So in the same way we make it learn, so we make them learn the alphabets so that in future they can form words, they can speak a complete sentence. So that's where this learning and testing thing is being derived from, and that's how it is applicable in the machine learning thing. So system learn from previous experience and information to deduce and predict future information. So when we fed some data, so based on those it learns, based on those data it gains it experience to further move ahead in future, or to further predict the things in future by obviously using algorithms. And there are a lot many algorithms when we talk about the algorithms of machine learning. There are linear regression, there are logistic regression, then there are a lot many algorithms. Now if I talk about deep learning, so then there also is an area of machine learning, because that is being the subset of the machine learning, as you can see here. So inside the blue box lies the orange box, which is of deep learning, indicating that it is a subset of it. So that also uses specific type of machine learning algorithm, and that's what we call at it uses neural networks. So I'll even show you how actually neural network look like. So it's a little bit complex, the deep learning thing, so that lies inside the machine learning. Now the next one is natural language processing, which makes human language accessible to computer. So that is also being a branch of artificial intelligence. So it makes human language accessible to computers. For example, it could be that NLP enables computer so that it can hear the speech recognition thing, the facial recognition thing, read text, then interpret the text and speech, measure the sentiment. That's where we coin this term sentiment analysis, that by listening to a particular sentence, it could actually predict that whether it is in a positive note, or whether it is in a negative note, or whether it is in a neutral note, and determine the import segments of the text. So that's natural language processing, that naturally as we speak the language, what all can be processed from it, what all sentiments can be derived from it, and how it should be acting on it. So this is what is artificial intelligence. Now there are stages of machine learning for any, okay, there's a spelling mistake. So it's written learning, but that's stages of machine learning. Apologies for that. So now the first stage being the data. So for any model, be it any model. So for example, let's take an example of a sentiment analysis model. So for the model to be able to make a prediction, we first need to teach it that how to do that. That is, we need to train it that if this particular sentence, or if in this particular sentence there is a word that I hate something, I hate watching movies. So then that hate word indicates negative annotation. So that's where the training comes in picture, that we train it that, okay, whenever you get this word, then you must be very sure that the sentence is going in the negative way. So we start from some training example, some data from which the model can learn. Now comes the creating a model. So first we'll talk about creating a model. Processing is basically that whatever data that we have given, so it's now learning on that data. It's getting trained. Then creating a model. So given a set of data or observation, we try to fit a function to it. So like how actually do we predict? So that's using some algorithm. So if it's a linear regression, so then we try to fit a function in it. Like there would be an x-axis, there would be an y-axis, and then we would be plotting. And whenever we see that there is less variation, so that means our model is going close to what it should actually learn, because now there is less errors. Now making prediction, finally when the model is trained and we have tested it, now it would be ready to make future prediction. So suppose we have trained it on a set of 10 data. So usually the training and testing data, suppose you have 100 of rows. So usually the breakage is like 80% and 20%. So 80% we give for training and 20% we give for testing. So we train on 80% of the data. For example, you can train on 80 line items or 80 rows, and then you test on 20 rows. And now if you give 10 another set of rows, new set of rows, which wasn't present in the training and testing data, it would try to make some predictions based on how well it has been trained. It is not always or ever 100% correct. So it totally depends on how thorough testing and training you have done on your model, on how vast data you have trained, and accordingly it would make prediction with certain accuracy. So, or you can say a confidence level that it's 70% correct or it's 80% correct. So like that. Now there is this feedback loop where over here you can see that it makes prediction. Then there's a feedback loop which goes back on data. So it's like, if you talk about in general terms, so if a person has done some mistake, then we tell him that you've done wrong and you can improve it in this way. The same applies to the machine learning model. If it has made something wrong, a wrong prediction, then there's a feedback loop which in turn tells the data that, okay, this has been predicted wrong, so from next time you take care of this. So next time when you give that data, so it has received the feedback and it will work on it. So that's how it keeps on improving itself. So usually most of the time it happens that we really don't know or do not have access to all the features, or do not have access to all the data that could come. Like that our training and testing data is not that abundant, so that we can really train it on a vast number of data. So usually that is a problem. Even when you go and ask your customer or your business that we would want this much data, or we would want thousands and millions of data, so they would be also a little hesitant. And also it's a time consuming task that for them to give you so many data and for then you to train it on so many data. So this feedback loops usually helps a lot, which keeps on improving the accuracy with the time for the model. So that's what this thing do. So what we can do is to estimate the true function and keep retraining a model to get the function closer to its correct form, like closest. So as I told you that when you keep plotting, so whenever there is very less error now, so it's getting close to the correct form of the data. So that's where you say, okay, our model is now ready to make future predictions. So these are the stages of machine learning. Now, before coming on to why RPA plus AI, let's have a look on the types of machine learning models. So broadly, if I talk about, there are two types. One is supervised learning model and the other is the unsupervised. So as the name suggests only. So if I talk about supervised machine learning, so that algorithm uncover insights, patterns, and relationship from a labeled training data set, which is that the data is already tagged with the correct answer. So now the algorithm are able to learn how the feature relate to the target and then accordingly make predictions on future data. And under supervised machine learning training comes two things. One is the classification and the other is the regression. So classification is when it has to choose between two things. Okay, you like watching movies or you don't like watching movies. So if we have a training set of data and on that we have the gender and the age of the person, and accordingly now we predict that whether this person likes watching movie or the person doesn't like watching movies, or you can say the person likes watching fiction movie or does not like watching fiction movies. So when we have trained it on, you say, 500 or 200 set of data, so now if we give another new age and or a age on which it hasn't been trained, and the gender, obviously it could be male or it could be female. So now it has to predict that whether this particular person of this particular age would like watching movie or would not like watching movie. So it would be a yes or no, that it may like watching movie and it may not like watching movie. And similarly, classification of the emails, whether it's a spam and or whether it's not a spam. So if it's there choosing between two, a yes or no, a true or false, so that's what classification is. Then regression is, it usually returns a numerical target, like predicting the price of a land based on the location, based on the city, based on how close it's to the market area, based on how like big the area is, the square footage, based on the zip code. So that is the regression thing. So now if I talk about unsupervised machine learning, so it infer patterns from a data set without reference to a labeled outcome. Like there is no labeled outcome that whether it would like watching movie or it would not like watching movie. So there's nothing like that, or whether to calculate the price of a land or whether to calculate the price of something. So there's nothing like that. So unsupervised is like, you can say, the credit card frauds and all. So it would see the outlier. Outlier is basically a something that there is a pattern, and now there comes something which is very different from all the patterns that has occurred till date. So suppose there are numbers written, say 2, 4, 6, 7, and then in between there is a number written 783. So that's an outlier because there is a huge shift from what the pattern was going on. So that is an outlier. So it is very different from all other underlying data. So that is unsupervised learning. Let me show you with an example. So here we have this supervised and unsupervised. So this is this classification and regression model, as I told you. So you can predict the house of the price from the training data. That's the regression, that it usually returns the numerical target. Then if I talk about classification, determining whether or not someone will be a defaulter of the loan, determining whether that person would like watching movie or would not like watching movie. So all these. And types of unsupervised machine learning techniques. So the first is clustering and the other is association. So clustering is basically you've been given all these data, say different data, and now you cluster them based on certain criteria, that okay, I'll be clustering all the pink one together, the light brown ones together, and the beige ones together. Or if there is an age group sort of thing, then you'll be clustering based on that. I'll be clustering 20 to 30 age group together, then 60 to 70 together, and like that. So that is also the clustering thing. And the association thing is that if you have a large varied database, so then about discovering exciting relationships between them, that a subgroup of cancer patient grouped by their gene expression measurements, or a group of shopper based on their browsing and purchasing history, or based on to which site they go very frequently or to which site they buy very frequently, and then movie group by the rating given by movie viewers. So this is all unsupervised learning. So these are basically the broader categories of different type of machine learning model, which is supervised and unsupervised. And this is the difference between these two machine learning techniques. You can refer this URL, which I am showing as of now. I'll put the link in the description box below. And then also there is a good summary given about that. If you do not want to go through this entire thing, I would refer that you go through the summary. It's really explained well in the summary section even. I'll put the link in the description box. If you want to check it, you may check it. Now, coming to why RPA plus AI. So, see, what is RPA? So, as we told, that if there is any rule-based task that we would like to do, or if it's an, you can say, only RPA usually if it's a repetitive task or it's a lot of clerical task or if it's a rule-based task that has been happening. So then we usually, that's the traditional RPA thing that automates all these tasks. But what if there is an intelligence involved? What if there is a prediction involved? What if there is no rule-based task instead there is varied amount of data like the invoice processing thing. So the invoice could be different for different vendors and you cannot apply RPA to it. Or even if you're applying RPA for different invoice, you're writing different code, then that involves a tremendous amount of manpower, a tremendous amount of time, and that would obviously not return you that amount of ROI so that you'll be ready to invest. So it would not be a win-win situation. Instead, it would be a win-loss situation if you are for different invoices, if you're making different RPA code to run. So then that's obviously not recommended. It's better than that you do that manually. So that's where the AI comes in picture. So we want RPA to the next level by integrating AI into automation, and that's where that term hyper automation comes in picture. So this will enable robots to do more sophisticated automation and complete cognitive tasks such as classifying emails, predicting sales, invoice processing, receipt processing. So all these tasks. So now coming to what is AI, or as in how to use it. So there are data scientists and there are teams who are developing a model, but actually getting that model in the production or getting that model being launched so that business process can actually use it. So this is the gap that we need to fill so that whatever model is available, we can really implement them in our business process to combine these two things, which is RPA plus AI, to bring in the hyper automation. So now RPA plus AI. So when conceptualizing RPA and AI, it can be helpful to think of AI as the brain and RPA as the hands. And they have to be connected to be in sync and to work. So like we normally work is that our brain tells or stimulates and accordingly we keep on doing the actions. That if we want to grab a glass of water, so that's the nerve that is being connected from the brain to our head, which actually helps us move our hand and grab that glass of water and drink it. So to actually complete that all complex task in which there is no rule. So when we are picking up a glass of water to drink it, there is no rule defined on it. And we can pick up the glass of water from anywhere and we can drink it either with right hand or with left hand. So there is no rule defined on it. So those are the complex tasks which involves human intelligence. That we human, we know that there is a glass of water, we need to grab it, we need to drink it, and that is because our brain and our hands or all our organs are in sync and they're working together to achieve all these complex tasks in our daily life. So that's where when these two are combined, it covers a broader set of problems to be solved and not just the rule based task or not just the intelligent based task. So data scientists can build models for supervised or unsupervised tasks and easily make them accessible in the business context they are needed in, thus enabling more sophisticated automation such as classifying emails or predicting next quarter sales, etc., which in turns broadens the entire arena of the use cases or of the business scenarios that are being covered with RPA or with AI or with the combination of RPA plus AI. And it is important to note that machine learning systems require moderate to very large amount of data to reach production level quantity. That is, the training data on which that model is being trained before it is being launched into the production. So it has to be abundant. So there's a first step in automating an ML enabled use case, maybe gathering enough data to train the model so that it does not predict anything which isn't happening, which may lead to an error. And that's what we wanted to avoid. So there must be abundant data on which it can actually gather, on which it can actually be trained, and then it can be further used. So these are some of the use cases of RPA plus AI. In general, we can have resume matching, help desk answers, customer churn prediction. Then in healthcare also we have propensity of claim denial prediction, redemption prediction. Then in retail we have package quality evaluation, inventory management, merchandising. Then in finance we have fraud detection, personal loan approval, KYC entity identification. Then in professional services we have deal guidance, data extraction from charts, legal win and loss rate protection. So all these are the use cases of AI. So this AI Fabric, which is the UiPath's machine learning platform, so it enables customers to deploy, to consume, to manage and improve ML skill developed in-house, which is there in the out-of-the-box packages. So those are the some of the machine learning models that has been provided by UiPath, and we just need to use them. We just need to know how to use them, and we need not to care about that what code has been written behind, how has this model been created. So they has provided us with a very simpler UI by which we can just dragging and dropping and performing few clicks. We can actually use that model into our real-time processes. And obviously, we can even upload our own ML model if we know how to create an ML model, and if we want a certain use case specific sort of model that we want to deploy in our business process. And the out of the box packages is not fulfilling what we actually want to do. We can even upload our own package, a zip file, which would be our ML model, and we can even use them. So the out of the box packages that UiPath provides, so it has either written on itself or its customer has written. So UiPath also has this that are built by a customer's data science team or by a partner. So the one partner of UiPath is H2O.ai. So those model can also be implemented if you want to. So we can have a zip file, we can upload it, and we can use it. So these are some of the main terminologies when we come on to talking about AI Fabric. And for implementing any sort of any use case, we must be aware about all these terminologies. These are very important terminologies. So the first one being data sets, then ML packages, then pipeline, then ML skills, and ML logs. So instead of just talking about it here verbally, let's go on to AI Fabric and actually see that how it all works. And these are the pipeline status: fetching resource, packaging, running, successful, failed, and killed, which I'll be covering soon in the upcoming videos. So now we'll move on to AI Fabric and actually see the practical implementation of all these terminologies and of all the pipeline status, and how to actually build the ML package, deploy it, train it, test it, and etc. So till then, stay tuned. And in my next video, we'll be focusing more on the implementation part rather than on the theory part, which we have covered mostly in this particular video. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and happy learning. And I'll be coming soon with the next video in which we'll be focusing on practical implementation. Thank you.